Hello and welcome back to CamBro Conversations. Today's conversation, I'm joined by Paul Mort. Paul is a master coach, a mentor, an author, and a keynote speaker. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for that. That was lovely. That was a lovely intro. I'm ready to go. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Yeah, we always say at the start of podcasts as a kind of a reflex, I'm excited to have you. But I think when somebody has a conversation with you, Paul, everyone just gets a bit excited, don't they? They get up for it.
Yeah, man. And I've been waiting for a while to do this. We've been kind of bouncing backwards and forwards with dates. And yeah, we finally made it happen, mate. So let's I'm excited to see the questions that you ask me, actually, because they're always different. And excited to obviously have an impact on whoever's listening in or watching in.
Yeah, exactly that. We've got so many mutual friends, and a lot of people were saying to me, you need to speak to Paul, Mike Samuels, Yusuf and Johnny. And I was like, well, we'll make it happen, but I need to wait.
I've known those guys for a long time as well.
Yeah. Do you know when I was doing my research for this, Paul, I like to listen back to old interviews, particularly ones that are like way, way back. And I listened to one that you did with the Propane Boys from 2015. Mad.
Jesus Christ, bro.
Such a long time ago.
Yeah, I was just... Sorry, mate, I'm cleaning my camera for you. I was just kind of... In 2015, I was just coming out on the other side of kind of suicidal tendencies. So that would have been a completely different me, which is... Yeah, I bet that was a bit mad.
Yeah, you've done so much since then. And I guess...
Yeah, it was really, really weird around that time as well. Speaking about old podcasts, 3 weeks ago, I was speaking in Puerto Rico, and I was speaking with Gary Vee. And we got talking, and I actually interviewed Gary Vee in 2014 for my podcast, and I can't even remember doing the interview. Like, really? Not even just I sounded different. I was like, I can't even remember the conversation that well. Which is mad, that, isn't it?
Is it just the headspace that you were in at that point that you just the
headspace I was in, mate? I was fucking zoned out, zombied out. I would have either been in 2014, or would either been heavily sedated with whatever medication I'd been put on at that time, hungover, or wired to the moon on coke. It would have been one of those three, or a combination of all three. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, not a good combination at all, Paul. I guess if we were to go back to 2014, I know that you made your first £1 million at that point, and that level of success, given the background you come from, the first entrepreneur in your family, that must have felt amazing. But how does that lead to your lowest point, suicidal tendencies, when you've got that level of status and success, which probably you strived for? How does that interlink and become a point where you're...
It's a great question, It's a great question, but it didn't feel amazing. It's weird. It's weird. The way I could describe it is when I got there, it didn't feel anything like what I thought it would. When I kind of dreamed of it when I was like 22, 23, when I first set out on the road to being like my own boss, and that didn't feel anything like it. The only way I can describe it is it was like getting to the end of a marathon and realizing it was the wrong finish line or something. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I was almost, the feeling that I had was kind of, is this it? Like my life wasn't really any better apart from I had some money in the bank and like lived in a nice place, but I was in a place where I didn't know anyone, where I was isolated, where I spent most of my days sad, angry, only mantras. I did all the fucking affirmations or the incantations. I went to all the seminars. I hired all of the coaches. I bought all the books. Even back then, I think I was listening to audiobooks back then. I think they were brand new. I think Audible wasn't a thing, but there was like Apple books or something. I can remember listening to one book, actually. It was a marketing book called Tribes. It's an amazing book, actually. Seth Godin. And I remember actually being on the beach in Marbella listening to that. That is a memory that I've got from them, which is weird. Yeah, the race, I did the 4-hour work week thing. I did all that stuff. I cut out all the negative people, and I was left actually there was just me left. yeah, just me left. Because like I say, I would say the race I was running was that of success and positivity. That was it was everyone else's picture of, and mine actually, when I was a lot younger, of what success looked like. It was like sacrifice everything to get this life like you're not even sure if you want.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? And I suppose you realizing that you were in the wrong place early enough to not end up in the worst possible place, which was leaving your family without
it wasn't even, I suppose it was me realizing actually, but it was just the wake-up call was the one that I got from my wife, where she basically asked me if I was willing for my kids to grow up with no dad, and I wasn't.
Yeah,
That
well,
was it. That was the watershed fucking hell moment.
Yeah, and people need that to move forward, and not just your family, but many thousands of people will be very thankful that you pushed on, Paul, because you've had such an impact since then. But what's happened since then? What have you been up to since then? I know it's going to be a list as long as a receipt, but I'd love to dive into some of the things that have happened.
Since then, I mean, hell's bells, mate. I've lost 5 stone. I got off all meds. I've worked with thousands of people. I've been published by HarperCollins. I've had the likes of Tyson Fury and Middleton on my podcast. I've been named UK Master Coach of the Year 2 years running. Last week, I actually got accredited as the highest level coach you can get. And the guy assessing me ended up hiring me. That was my other thing. And then we did this sold out theatre show in London, in Newcastle last year, 1,000 people. And then we're doing London in July. Yeah, a lot of mad shit. And it's all just really, a lot of it hasn't even been designed. It was just me working on myself and kind of realizing that I was kind of giving myself another opportunity to have to what I would say, add value to other people's lives, which is just show. Basically, I wanted other people to feel like I do and not feel like I did. And I believe that the way I'm able to communicate that has allowed me to do what I've done, because I just kind of say it, I would say like it is, but like it is for me. Because I don't think when you say something like it is, it's not like it is for everybody. It's like it is for you. And a lot of people seem to have just resonated with that, mate.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And this now feels a lot more like your own race then. You don't now feel like you're living somebody else's values.
Yeah, man. You know what's crazy? That's an amazing point, mate, because there's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. And I can't remember where I read it. And it was something like the curse of the white rabbit, right? And the way I see it is, it's not that I don't have goals and targets anymore. It's that I actually love going after them. And I'm not that attached to not catching the rabbit. Like if you look at greyhounds, right? You ever seen a greyhound chase a rabbit? They're not crying and beating themselves up when they don't catch the rabbit. They're just buzzing they got to chase the rabbit. They're fucking delighted that they got to see them at the end. That's what I feel like now, because I'm going after things that I care about and that impact other people. And I don't, the way I look at what a lot of people are doing with their goals is they hate the process. Like, and I'm not saying that I don't sometimes have to eat shit. I do sometimes have to eat shit. And I do sometimes do things that I don't want to do. But back then it was like I sacrificed everything to try and get to a place that I thought I wanted. But it was the kind of that whole, well, I'll just suck it up and I'll just grind this out and I'll just do things that I hate with the hope that I'll get to do more things that I love. And that wasn't the case at all. So now I'm in the inspiration zone of doing things that I value doing. And again, having to get beat up every now and again. In fact, in the case of jiu-jitsu, I get beat up every day, multiple times. But I'm like enjoying that whole, and it sounds a bit shit, doesn't it? I'm loving that whole process. And if I get to the target, I get to the target. If I don't, I'm enjoying the process anyway. As before, I sacrificed everything. My mental health, my physical health, my friendships. I didn't speak to my mom for 6 months because she bought some Juice Plus or something. I'm not even kidding. My mom just complains all the time. So I stopped speaking to her for 6 months. Almost sacrificed my marriage. And then I got to the end and I was like, like I say, is this it? Now that's kind of secondary. I still have targets. It's still important to have a vision of the future. But I'm like, I'm going to just get in this river and not swim against the tide. Not swim against the current, sorry. I'm going to go with the current.
One of our other mutual friends, Chris Williamson, he was actually the first episode for my podcast, and he's been a tremendous help along the way. Yeah. He was talking to me about doing things that you enjoy that are work but don't necessarily always feel like work gives you a competitive advantage. And I think everything you said there links to that, where some of the ways when you're serving people and giving men purpose and supporting their well-being, that almost feels like not like play to you, but it's easy because you're in flow and you're finding joy in the process.
I don't need motivation to do what I do anymore, because inside of my business, mate, I don't do the shit that I hate doing.
Yeah.
Hire somebody else who likes doing it. And I'm like, this is why I said I don't like traveling. So I stopped doing podcasts for a bit. I don't like doing them on Zoom. Like, I don't like recording them on Zoom myself. So I just don't do them. Do you know what I mean? I don't like writing anything longer than a daily email that I write. So what do? I build audiobooks instead of having a written book. There's a lot of things that I don't like doing. So I'm like, do you know what? Can I get someone else to do this to free me up to do more things that I love doing? Or shall I just not do this at all? There's no one, like, for example, I've got no desire to learn property, for example, but I get the benefit of it. So I hire somebody else to handle all of that for me. So I'm just not, I'm just in this place now where I'm like, why? No one gets into business to do shit that they hate. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes, and again, another example is a lot of us want to be lean and fit, right? But then we build plans that are built around things that we fucking hate doing. And then we need and all we're left with is willpower and motivation, and that's very fickle. It's not reliable. So I'm like, okay, how can I get in shape? Maybe not the best shape, but how can I get in shape? How can I stay fit? How can I stay healthy? How can I stay stimulated without needing motivation and willpower? I don't need incentivized to do things that I do in business now or my personal life. Don't need incentivized, don't need accountability, don't need reminded, don't need motivation to do any of it, because, again, it's taken me a long time to figure this out. You can't create a life you love constantly doing shit that you loathe. Full stop.
Yeah, no, I resonate with that really strongly. And I think I've seen that from yourself, where now your jiu-jitsu forms a large part of your exercise regime. And while it might not get you quite as jacked and as lean as it would if you were lifting weights, but you don't enjoy that anymore. So why would it remain part of your schedule if you had to?
You know what? I'm supposed to do it twice a week. I probably do it once every other week. And that's with a PT and a coach and accountability. I'm traveling a lot as well. And I'm like, just picking things up and putting them back down again doesn't stimulate my very creative intellect much anymore. I'll do it because I know the benefits of it. But if my life revolved around that, I'd be fat.
Yeah, exactly. Because whereas with jiu-jitsu, you're happy to do the exercise and you get the benefits off the back of that.
I go when I'm injured. I go when I'm tired. I went at 6 a.m. on Friday morning. That's unheard of. People are like, what? Like, yeah, 6 a.m. strangling my friends. But it's like, I would actually go if I was sick as well. But if I've got something where I'm just a little bit sick and I can't pass it on to the other guys, I'll go then as well because I love it so much. And that's the same for my business. I never need incentivized. All I do really, Colin, is talk now. That's what I'm good at. That's what I enjoy doing. Teaching, training, coaching, mentoring, consulting, talking about myself. Like, that's what I love to do. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Being on the stage, doing podcasts, coaching on the phone, coaching on all that kind of stuff is just, if you look at my schedule, it's full of that.
Yeah. It's all aligned with where you want to go. You've said a lot of things within this conversation so far, and there's been some like little pinpoints that I've put, and I want to go back to some of them. One of them is about cutting out negative people. That's a big topic nowadays, isn't it? We have that kind of famous Jim Rohn where the people you spend the most, I think it's the kind of closest five that you spend the time with, you become like. You have a little bit of a different opinion on that to what a lot of people are talking about out there in terms of just cut out negative people, get rid of them.
I do. I actually think it's kind of it's not a double-edged sword, but your peer group's critical. If your peer group are in direct competition to your goals, all you're left with is willpower and motivation. And like I've already said, willpower doesn't work. It has an expiry date. Hang out with 10 smackheads, it's only a matter of time before you end up with the 11th. Get what I'm saying? Like, I think that is important in terms of behavior. In terms of behavior, I think that you've got to get around people that are going in the same direction as you. And this doesn't mean cutting out your friends. I've tried that. I ended up on my own, right? Now, it doesn't mean cutting out your friends. It just means having a different peer group. For example, if I only trained with white belts, I wouldn't get any better. So I train with people that are and white belts to see where I'm at. Or if I only hang out with people that weren't at a state, who are behind me in terms of business, I wouldn't get any better. I want to see. I believe that we will adjust our behavior to get the approval of the people who we're hanging out with. I don't care what anyone says. That's what we do. That's why people drink when they don't want to drink, to fit in. It's why people gossip when they're with gossips. It's what happens. We mirror people, right? So that's the first part. So I think we've got to raise our standards or we lower our standards to fit in. That's where we're at. We either raise our standards to fit in, or we lower our standards to fit in. That's what we do as humans. Because I just think that whole tribe thing, that whole not getting kicked out of the village, not getting removed from the tribe, is like built in our DNA.
Yeah, we've not evolved that much.
Where we're at right now is we get to choose our tribe, right? We do get to choose our tribe. So I think that's important to stretch yourself, get around people who are further ahead. But then that other part about negative people, I'm like, when people say, try going a day without complaining, it'll change your life. And I'm like, I'm not even going to attempt that, because that's what we do. Listen, almost 90% of our thoughts are the same as the day before, and 80% of those are negative. So I'm like, if I think you're negative, what does that make me?
Yeah.
If I think you're negative, that makes me negative, right? It's like, I kind of get it. But again, we've got to take responsibility. What if people just say shit? They make noises with their mouth. They make shapes with their lips and their tongue and their teeth. Noise comes out, and then we get to decide what it means. Like, I think to a point, there's a bit where like, do you know what? Fucking hell, these are whining fuckers. But again, it's like, if you just surround yourself with positive people, you'll struggle, because everybody has complaints. Everyone likes to whine. Everyone likes to moan sometimes. And you've just got to kind of pick your battles carefully with that, because what we tend to do is we'll complain about other people complaining. And then even if it's just in here, we complain about them complaining and then blame them for the way that we feel. I'm like, hang on a second here. Let's understand that everyone likes to complain. Everyone likes to be negative. Everyone likes to whine. It's for some people, it's the only way they know how to feel better is by complaining.
Verbalizing it,
something.
Yeah.
It's the only way they know how to feel better. It's up to me. It's up to me how I deal with what someone else says.
It's like the interpretation, the processing of it. So they've given you the input, and you just choose how you deal with that. So I find that it gives you a bit of an element control back.
It totally does. And we got to take responsibility as well, I think. How we feel and how we process things is on us. And again, is there such thing as negative, positive? I think there is. I believe that there is. You don't obviously want to go out seeking, let's hang out with all these fucking complainers. But you've also got to cut people some slack sometimes, or you'll end up where I was, very lonely. And being an entrepreneur is lonely enough as it is.
Yeah. So if you divorce yourself from absolutely anyone that ever complains, then you're left with nobody, as you said.
You can't run away from negative people your entire life. You'll spend a lot of time running, and you'll be in a lot of empty rooms.
Undoubtedly. Another thing that you said that I've kind of taken a little note of in my head, Paul, is that the way that you convey your experience and your thoughts on mental health differs quite a lot, again, to a lot of the conversations that we have.
Yeah.
First of all, before we get into maybe your approach, what do you think people are getting wrong when it comes to the conversation around mental health?
They believe they should be happy all the time.
Okay.
They believe happiness is some kind of destination or some kind of journey or some kind of who you are. It's not. It's simply a fucking emotion. It's subject to the law of impermanence. There's energy in motion. It's not. It's transient. People don't get this. Happiness is just the result of thinking happy thoughts. The problem that most people have is, one, think they're supposed to be happy all the time, and two, they don't allow themselves permission to feel happy unless the outside world matches their pictures. So it's like, I'll be happy when, I only feel happy when. They pass most of that responsibility on to other people, right? And second, so that's the first part. They think they should be happy all the time, or they think they should be positive all the time. And if they're not, they're broken. There's something wrong with them. Untrue. The second part I think that people are getting wrong, and I think the mental health world is getting slightly wrong, is this concept of, just talk. I'm like, that's not enough. It's not enough. Most people need to do less fucking talking and more fucking changing. More fucking work. More action. More fucking effort. Talking could be a start. It could be all you need. But for most men, and again, I've worked with thousands of men, few hundred women. I work with a lot of women right now. Women almost bullied me into coaching them. Like, until 2020, I'd never coached a female. Not even kidding here. And then I just got bullied into it. And I love coaching women now, actually. It's quite a different dynamic. So the second piece of this is just talking. Like, talking could be a start, but it's not the only thing. I mean, what are you supposed to say? Who'd you say it to?
Yeah.
What if it's not about talking? What if it's about, you know what? I just need to do something different in the morning. Do you know what I need to do? I just need to maybe get a handle on me boozing. Talking might help with that, but it's certainly not the be all and end all like most people or this mental health thing would make it out to be. Like, you can go and talk to someone and then go back to doing the same shit you were doing before. The talking's going to make no fucking difference. So for me, it's more action. If you want to feel different, you got to do different. If you want some things to be different, you got to do some shit that's different. If that's talking, great. But I think a lot of the time it's not. But I think the first thing and third thing I'll throw in, this is the elephant in the room for a lot of people, is that mental health needs physical support. No one wants to talk about this. People get triggered as fuck when I say this. And it doesn't mean that you need to be living in the gym or eating lettuce or even giving up alcohol, right? But you can't put diesel in a petrol engine and then wonder why it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at with those three things. And that was just off the top of my head. But I would say those three things are the keys here.
Well, there'll be the three things that you see when guys come and talk to you that have maybe tried to address their mental health before and gotten nowhere. They're in this repeated dark place. And you're saying to them, well, actually, if you just talk about it, that's I would say, like the entry ramp. Like, you're taking your first step forward to improving things. But of course, action has to follow that. The third piece is, it's so difficult for people to accept that, because I think when you push them hard enough to talk about it, because I do think we have a problem as men in terms of verbalizing what's going on. But if you just talk about it and say you just blurt out, and it normally comes out when somebody's been having a drink or somebody's been like using whatever else, they feel their inhibitions are down, so they can tell somebody, oh, I'm really struggling. But if they're having,
that's when they're probably as well, Colin, that might be when they're least likely to do it, because they've raised their state. That's why they've done it. They've raised their state. So actually, when they're pissed and full of sniff, they feel fucking great. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think some people, the talking thing, the other thing that you brought up, you brought something just popped in my head when you said it as well. I think that sometimes, I think we can also be guilty, and I say we, I mean people. We can also be guilty of using I don't know what to say, and I don't know who to say it to, and I'm worried that we can use that as a bit of an excuse as well. We can use it a bit of a crutch. If that talking thing is your reason for not doing something different, then let's fucking skip that step.
Yeah, skip the step and take action.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think your previous experiences allows you to come with this direct style, because I think, and I've been very open in the podcast before, I've never been diagnosed with any form of mental health disorder. I am genuinely a pretty level and pretty happy person, albeit I also accept that I'm never always happy. It's just ludicrous to assume that. Like,
you know, Colin, it's interesting because you might know I'm friends with James Smith. I used to coach James, a good friend of mine, and he says the same thing. He's never had it. And I'm like, yeah, but the reason you don't have it is because you're doing the things. You have a strategy for feeling the way that you do. We all have strategies for feeling the way we do. You don't feel any way by accident. You don't feel feelings by mistake. I didn't head up on the cliff by mistake. You don't feel the way you do by accident. You feel the way you do on purpose. But most of the time, you're doing it, and you're not having those problems because you're not doing the shit that creates the problems. Do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
And I think some people are predisposed to it because there's evidence of this. I talked about it in my last book. I actually didn't do the research on that. The team at HarperCollins did all that. Actually, it was a reporter from BBC Panorama did the research on this for me. And some people are more predisposed, but actually you're just doing the things that create your state of being. So this is why do you get what I'm saying here?
I do. And again, that's a hard pill for some people to swallow, because some of them might say, I go my morning walks like Colin does, I train like Colin does, I journal like Colin does, but I'm feeling down. But then maybe there's other things to look beyond that, because sometimes these keystone habits are great and they're really valuable, but things happen. So for example, when you break up with somebody, there's like pretty good evidence that you have levels of depressive symptoms for periods after that. When you lose a job, when you're worried about money, circumstances impact things as well, regardless of how much you're looking after your well-being as well. I spoke my first.
Also the frame that we see it in. I mean, the thing is, people, we're not taught the tools to deal with this shit. We're not taught the tools to deal with it. If some people look back at losing their job, they can look in hindsight and think, fuck me, I'm glad that happened. Yeah. For some people, losing their job in the moment crushed them. But a few months down the line, they can look back and think, That was I got set free there. I got set free from that fucking shit. Even with relationships, we can all look back at relationships and think, wow, I dodged a fucking bullet there. It's because we're not taught quickly enough how to reframe, how to find the fucking blessings in shit until later. But again, almost by accident. But we're not given the tools to deal with that kind of shit. We've got to remember as well, this is why I'm very, not dubious, but I'm always like, I don't like sharing my morning ritual too much because what works for me, you might hate. I mean, I love the idea of rolling around at 6 a.m. on a Friday morning fighting. For some people, that's their worst nightmare. So do you get what I'm saying here? For some people, I'm known for loving an ice bath. For some people, they don't want to do that because it doesn't make them feel good. I think our personal values are like fingerprints. Like there are some things that I'm like, so when I first start working with people, I'm like, the first thing I'm going to teach them is we need to start understanding that questions are the steering wheel of the mind. So let's steer your mind in the direction that we want. I think a big problem that we're talking about before was when you said when people come to me, I'm like, the worst part is they don't know how they want to feel. So they romanticize about how they don't want to feel. They get addicted to how they don't want to feel. Because I'm like, how do you want to feel? Well, I don't want to feel like this. I just want to feel normal. I'm like, that is your normal, mate. How do you want to feel? Because you'll get what you're focused on. You can create a strategy around that. I've gone completely off topic because I meant to say that five.
No, I love that.
The journaling thing. So I'm like, journaling for me is not Dear Diary. It's not Adrian Mole. It's not a YouTube diary. It's a let's ask questions. And the great thing about questions is your answers are very individual. Because so I think sometimes when I'm working with people, I'm like, I'm not going to give you the answers. This is why I got named Master Coach of the Year 2 years running, because I don't give people the answers. I ask them questions that they don't like. Yeah. That's the second time I wanted, they were like, this guy, and I totally wasn't expecting. It was on Zoom because it was in the middle. It was in that December lockdown, 2020 December lockdown, brutal lockdown.
Awful time.
Right?
Yeah.
So we had to do it on Zoom. I wasn't even going to turn up. My wife's like, go on, they've asked you to come, just show up. And then they started saying, and this guy's won it because he asks the hard, uncomfortable questions and he's not scared to ask them. And I was like, there's not many people who will do that. And that was me. So for me, that's what journaling is. It's just asking questions. That's why I'm like, you can take the rest of my morning routine and not do it. Do your own thing. But questions, it's your answer, not my answer. It's yours. And then it starts to become super individual. And I think that's when people start to actually get insights as to what they value, what pushes their buttons, what doesn't push their buttons, what turns them on, what turns them off, what they're naturally inclined to do, what motivates them, what they find. Here's where I'm at on my business right now. This is what we're working on. I'm saying to people in their businesses right now, what if you built a business where you only worked on things that were fascinating and motivating to you? And I'm like, what if not if the money was secondary? I think a business will live and die on the money, right? Full stop. I want all of the money. I've got no problem admitting that. But I don't want all of the money for doing shit that I hate.
Yep, agreed.
I've already done that. Right? I've already done that. So now I'm like, what if we just built a business where I only did things that I found motivating and fascinating? What if we could build a life like that? I mean, I find that really intriguing. Who's to say we can't do that?
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? That's the one that we're in business right now. That's what I'm trying to do. But you got to consider that what I find motivating and fascinating could be completely different for someone else.
Well, we just said about the fingerprints. Yeah, everyone's different in terms of the personal values. Regarding journaling though, Paul, the big thing for me was I had this blank page in front of me. I'd Googled these different prompts to say, like, how can I think better about myself? How can I improve my self-talk? How can I set better intentions for myself? And it was just so intimidating. And sometimes you would just draw a blank and you would be like, fuck this, I'm not doing it. But I bought the 6-minute diary. And while it's quite rigid and you have the same things morning and night, it does have some open questions on a weekly and a monthly basis, which have been helpful.
Yeah, I think, you know what, you just mentioned something there. I get asked this all the time. I've just started a new intake of this Unstoppable 20-year program that I do. And I get the same questions I always get. Paul, it's repetitive, feels repetitive. I'm like, well, what's the mother of all skill? Repetition is the mother of all skill. So you're conditioning your body and your mind to start thinking different, to start feeling different. So you got to think about if you weren't doing that, the way you are thinking and feeling is repetitive anyway. It's just repetitive in a way that isn't getting you what you want.
Yeah, I've done 2 years of it now, and for the positive affirmation, you've got a bit of a choice. Like you were saying, you can be repetitive, hammer it home and drill it, or you can be a bit more creative and do other things. But I respond super well to being habituated and consistent. It's like one of my main core values, and I've massively reinforced my positive self-image of how I behave and how I support others just through the same affirmation day after day after day after day. And I did some exploration. Again, I've heard you speak about this before, but your neuroplasticity, it relates so much better when you use positive affirmations than when you think about negative. And you said during a conversation already that guys come and say to you, I don't want to feel the way that I do just now. I don't want to. Yeah. And that, of course, is much more powerful because you're like, I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be down. And you're like, well, actually, we need to move it into a positive thing. I want to be, set your intention. Like, I want to be 2 stone leaner. I want to be more fulfilled in my career. These phrases are much more powerful when we say them and think about them than I do not want to be. Like, you're thinking about things that you want to avoid rather than things you want to have.
It's like getting in a taxi and the taxi driver saying, where do you want to go? And you just saying, not here. Yeah. Like, that's where most people are at. They're getting in a taxi or they're getting in a taxi every morning. And they're like, and the taxi driver saying, or even the old analogy that I heard, actually, I've had to modify this because when I heard it, it was a long time ago. And it was like, it's like going to the train station and buying a ticket. And the conductor, that's how long ago it was. I think it was Thomas the Tank Engine or some shit. The conductor asking, where do you want to go? And you saying, not here. Like, that's what most people are doing. And you'll get what you're focused on. And when you don't know where you're going, you'll end up at home. And what I mean by that is you end up with a familiar. The familiar is how you don't want to feel normally. So you'll always, where attention goes, energy flows. You'll always get that. You'll get what you're focused on. What you focus on grows and all that jazz.
How do you set your goals then with your journaling? What's your process?
So my goals are always built out. I have a 3-year vision that never has numbers in it. It has places, it has people, it basically has places and people. Places, people, and time in there. It never really has numbers in. And then I just reverse engineer that. So I have a big, massive, it's in one journal. It's about 8 pages of A4. And it's just based on a vision of my future. And then I just work backwards from there. So I get creative and then I get mechanical. And then I think one of the keys to living what I'm going to call an inspired life, and by inspired, I just mean fucking electrifying. Inspired, electrifying, exciting, is to be able to take this 3-year vision and just have it in your awareness so that you're working on it every day. Like, one of my favorite questions that I always ask is, what one thing am I most excited about today? Like, you want to live an exciting life? Just ask that question. And then I go, oh, well, I've got nothing to get excited about. I'm like, well, create it then.
Yeah, do something about it. Exactly that.
Just create it, even if it's something simple as fuck. The thing I'm excited about today is really simple. I'm training jiu-jitsu tonight. Like I do almost every day. It's not always the thing, but it's just about being able to look a little bit further down the future, sorry. And the reason I said past is because I think people that's where they're at. They're romanticized. They're fucking fascinated with the past. They can always remember the past, but they can never remember the future. So they can't tune into a vision for the future, which is why they can't get excited. It's why they can't get inspired, because they have no idea what they want their future to look like, because they get fucking obsessed with their past.
Yeah, they live there. One of the things that really helped me with journaling is at the end of each day, I have to write what my good deed was. And sometimes I'd be like, you've been like quite selfish in terms of the things that you've pursued, Colin. Like, what have you done that's a good deed for somebody else? But because I know I'm going to have to face the music at 9 o'clock when I put my phone away and I start journaling. I have to have done something. Otherwise, I'm going to be like, well, fuck, I haven't anything to write here today. So knowing that that's like the accountability I've got at the end of the day with myself, of course I could skip it. Nobody would know. Nobody would know that I didn't have anything to write there, but I would know. And I would know that you skipped on that today. You didn't do something that you considered.
I think it is as well, though, Colin. You got to give yourself a break here as well. Like, when you hit your goals, everyone benefits. When I hit my goals, everyone benefits. Everyone, my kids get to see the example that I'm setting. My kids get to see, I show them how I live, not tell them, not lecture them. I show them how to operate. I take them to all my shit. They're in my live show. They met Gary Vee last month in Puerto Rico. We got flown out there. They're meeting Stephen Bartlett in September because I'm speaking with him. I'll take them out of school to do that. So when you hit your goals, everyone benefits anyway.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, isn't it? It kind of encourages you to be selfish and focus on those things, because then you can bring people with you on the journey.
They get to see me. You get to be the demonstration of what personal growth is. Like
Yeah,
when you level up, man, when you level up, this is how I believe I'm changing the fucking world. Like we're changing the fucking world here, mate, one person at a time. Because when you help a man level up or a woman level up, guess what? The family sees that. They get to be the example of what's possible. They get to be the lighthouse. And then someone else gets impacted. And it's like a fucking virus. That's where I'm at right now with this shit. This is where I think we're doing here. Not just me, but anybody that's looking to impact people. Like, and help them transform and help them empower themselves and take back control of their lives. Like, that's changing the world, man.
Yeah, I love that, Paul. It really lights your fire. You can tell with that. But you've named off some incredible things, like you're going to be speaking with Stephen Bartlett in September, but you still experience self-doubt. Why is that?
All the time, because I'm stretching myself. Like, self-doubt for me is the fucking entry price. That's the cost of admission to live in a big ball, to live in fucking Disneyland life. Like, that, for me, that's the cost of admission. If I'm not doubting myself, I'm not stretching myself. If I'm not doubting myself, I'm not playing a big enough game. And you know that one of the reasons why a lot of people fail is because actually their goals are too small in the first place. It's not that they're too hard, it's that they're too fucking boring. If I know how to achieve something, it's too small. If my goals are something that I think I can do, I'll probably not hit them because they're boring. You know what I mean? A lot of guys, you say to them, what goals are you not hitting? It's always the ones that they know how to achieve because they're too boring for them. So I'm like, if I know how to do it, it's mega small and it doesn't excite me. And it doesn't, you think about the biggest achievements in your life, the ones that you're most proud of. At some point, you didn't believe you could do it and you didn't know how you were going to do it, but you fucking figured it out anyway. Like, I'm like, self-doubt is just, that's how I know I'm in the game. That's how I know I'm stretching. That's how I know I have to raise my standards because I'm doubting myself. The times I don't doubt myself, it's because I'm not stretching myself enough. Full stop.
Yeah, I get that.
That's why I love jiu-jitsu. It's constant stretching. It's constant learning. It's constant ego check.
You listed off some of the things that you say to yourself when you're like kind of being most critical to yourself on Instagram. It was things like, Paul, no one cares. Stop bragging. Don't be so positive. Someone might not like this, or someone might criticize you, or even things like you're only sharing recently when things are going well, like speaking with Gary Vee and stuff like that. How do you deal with that kind of inner critic? Because I think that derails people when they think, I'm only showing the good stuff. Like, who am I to do this? Maybe I don't deserve this success. It's like, I agree with you when you talk about imposter syndrome, by the way. We can maybe get on to that. But how do you deal with when you're having those challenging thoughts and your inner critic's just saying, things are going well, stop shouting about it, like you just focus on yourself, like stop putting out there?
Mate, such a great question, this, and something that I'm quite passionate about, actually. Because when I think about it, I'm like, okay, well, this could trigger some people. But for every person that's triggered, 10 people are fucking inspired. If I don't share it, it's selfish. The amount of people that would be inspired by me from this fucking small town with huge unemployment rates, getting flown to fucking Puerto Rico with his fucking wife and 2 kids, getting paid cheese to speak on stage with Gary fucking V, paid to stay there for a week in this resort. Mate, it had 3 balconies. The room I was in had 3 balconies. That's how big it was. It was a fucking corner suite. It was unbelievable. That will piss some people off, but it's just an indication of where they're at, not where I'm at. And also, I'd also like to think that I also share the not so good shit. Like, that's where I'm at. I'm like, I can't help it. It's not my fault that I'm experiencing more good than bad right now. There's a lot of shit that people don't see. Like, and I just didn't feel it was post-worthy, like share-worthy. When I got home, my fucking ceiling had caved in because my bath had been leaking. When I got home, my house was supposed to be finished. I've been home 3 weeks now and it's still not finished. The outside of my house, I'm getting it all rendered and shit. Getting a lot of work done. There's a lot of shit went sideways when I was away. But I'm like, that's a bit boring. But I still like to think that when I'm struggling, I'll still share it. Like, I had a hard time this weekend. I went to the match. I see my team win at Wembley for the first time in my life. I'm 42. My family were there and I didn't drink. I shared that, how hard it was for me, how difficult it was for me not to drink. Everyone around me was pissed. And I didn't drink. I shared that too. So, yeah, it's I suppose to answer your question, it's for every one person that can get triggered by it. I believe there's 10 that'll be inspired by it.
Yeah, so that overcomes
even the
that
person
voice.
that's triggered, it says more about them than it ever will about me.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And I think that people benefit from you overcoming that inertia and that kind of little bit that they might stop you posting. And obviously, I'm delighted as well that Sunderland are back in the Championship. They're a big club and a big support, but I'm a massive Rangers fan, and I am also a big proponent of sobriety. I haven't had a drink for about 2.5 years now. Again,
Nice.
not coming from a place of ever having an issue with it at all. I was pretty selective before. I probably drank after university like 4 or 5 times a year for special occasions, like my birthday, on holiday.
That was 5 or 6 maybe. Every quarter, once a quarter.
Yeah, exactly. 4 occasions that I like to enjoy, and I wanted to like just send it and enjoy it. But I just decided I'm not going to do that for a while. I don't know when I'll next drink. I will probably drink again, but I don't know when that'll be. But Rangers have had some incredible experiences recently, and we won the Scottish Cup on Sunday at the time of recording, and on the same day that you guys got promoted. Yeah. I think if you can't enjoy that in terms of the feelings you get without a drink, I think that's more of a problem than if you...
I had an even better time. I partied harder. I stayed up later. I partied even harder. I'm not even kidding. I had my kids with me in this thing called Box Park at Wembley, and I partied harder than I would have if I was pissed and full of snip. I partied way harder. I celebrated way harder. My whoop band thought I had 2 workouts. This whoop strap thing made my heart rate went higher than it does when I'm wrestling a fully grown man for 6 minutes. Not even kidding. And jiu-jitsu is the hardest cardio you'll ever do. And yet, my heart rate went high at the match. But I enjoyed it more. I was the time it felt a bit weird. But I look back at it, I'm like, I had a better time. And it's funny you mentioned Rangers, because in April, I think it was the 3rd of April or something, I went to the Old Firm game. I've never had as much hate on me social as when people thought I was a Rangers fan, by the way. It was very weird. Hang on a second. You follow me on socials. You know that I go to fucking every Sunderland home game. Now you're slating this. What part of you thinks... I was actually saying, if I got offered the ticket in the Celtic end for free, I would have went there as well. I'm not even kidding. Anyway, I went there.
You've got no allegiance either way, so people
shouldn't give a fuck. I mean, I had a great time. But it's funny because one of the guys I was with, his friend was in the car with us traveling, and his friend was tanked. And I quickly found that, and again, I don't want this to sound too cunty. I'm allowed to say cunt on here, but I just did.
Yeah,
so.
Of course you can.
There we go. So I quickly found, and it goes from me being entertained by someone being drunk. I'm quite entertained by them. I find it quite amusing. And then I go to being slightly irritated. And then I get to a point where I'm like, dude, are you all right? Seeing someone that tanked is like, oh shit, was that? Do you know what I mean? It's like I feel quite empathetic when that happens as well. It was a very strange experience for me, and it's happened a lot since. It goes from, oh yeah, you're pissed and you're having a laugh, to actually, mate, you're getting on me fucking wick now, to 3, oh shit, I feel a little bit sorry for you. The other week I was in Italy at a jiu-jitsu camp, and actually I didn't enjoy it at all. There was more boozing than Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I was a bit disappointed by the whole thing. But one guy had a pop on me one night, because I went to bed early, because we're all in this, not shared accommodation, but we'll have like a communal area where everyone's eating, and there was wine tasting and that. And after 3 nights, this one guy went, Paul, you're right boring fucker going to bed this early. And I'm like, mate, you've just sat and laughed at my jokes for 3 hours. The only reason you're saying I'm boring, and I said this, and it's not like me to, I said, the only reason you're saying I'm boring is because you're fucking pissed and you feel like shit now because you've done it for 3 days, and I'm going to bed. Shut the fuck up. And then he didn't speak to us again for a couple of days. But yeah, it's a real interesting thing for me. And again, in 2014, man, I was a heavy sessioner every weekend. Sometimes I go out on a Friday, and this is with kids, and not come back until a Monday. So I get what this is about. And again, I can't even say I didn't like drinking. I like drinking. I enjoy drinking. But then this year, I was just like, I was in Dubai actually, and I was like, I've got some big shit I want to hit this year. I've got some big goals. I've got some big targets, and I'm excited by them. I'm more excited about them than I am about getting drunk. Yeah. So now I'm like, can I do both? Probably not. And I wrote an email on it. I think one of the keys here is that I look forward to weekends now, because I don't just try and not drink. I plan shit in that I'm excited about doing every weekend. I mean, mate, I've been away. I think I've been away for the last 6 weekends. We went to Puerto Rico, and then I went to Italy for the jiu-jitsu camp. I went to Roma. I went to Roma against Bologna, which was incredible. Last weekend, I was at Spurs against Burnley. One of my friends got tickets for the Spurs game. This weekend I was at Wembley. Next weekend, it's my daughter's birthday and my wedding anniversary. We're going to see Top Gun, the new Top Gun. Then I'm going to Corfu. So and again, this is not about money at all. I save a lot of money because I'm not drinking and fucking doing gear all the time. But I plan weekends that are exciting. My goal isn't really to stay off the booze.
My goal is that you're creating positive state change through experience rather than substance. Which is
not what I want, not what I don't want.
Yeah. No, it's super interesting, Paul, and I do think people need to assess their relationship with alcohol. And I would never say to somebody to quit it completely if they don't have a problem with it. But when you become more selective and you compound the days where you're not having a hangover, and you were only having 5 or 6 hangovers a year when you were doing.
That's what my wife said. This is why you're doing that. And my wife, by the way, this is the woman that saved my life. For my wife to say, "Why are you doing that? You haven't even got a problem with drink." I was like, one, I just want to see if I can. 2, I want to see how I feel after. Again, I'm on day 151 today, I think, or day 150 today. Normally, I do between 90 and 100 days, easy. But now I'm starting to see the benefits to this. I'm starting to see the payoffs. I'm collecting more magic moments that I wouldn't have been able to remember if I was fucked.
Yeah, so super interesting.
This is just, and it's been, and like I say, it's a lot of people have said that to me, "Paul, but you only drink 5 or 6 times a year. Why are you doing it?" Because it's intriguing to me. And again, it's not about the stopping the boozing. It's about starting collecting that shit to start to live a more inspired for me, like to start to live a more exciting life. And I use this app called I Am Sober. And I've never counted the days before, actually. And I suppose I only check in maybe once every 4 or 5 days. Oh, I wonder how many days I'm on. It's almost I'm forgetting about not drinking. I'm forgetting about it because I'm remembering where I'm going. I'm forgetting about the drinking because I'm remembering my future, right? Forgetting where I'm going, forgetting about the drinking because I'm remembering my future. And there's just a couple of prompts in there that are like, my weekends are more fun when I don't drink. My weekdays are more exciting. And again, I'm not really about the productivity life. I'm about living a life that I love. When I'm living a life that I love, I don't need to drink all the time. I don't need to drink 5 or 6 times a year because I fucking love it. By the way, and again, I don't want to confuse this. I still have to eat shit a lot. I still eat shit a lot. Still challenges still come my way. A lot of challenges come my way. It is what it is. But I just don't frame them as... I learned in 2020, January 2020, I went on a course with a guy called Dr. John DeMartini that changed my life. And I love his books. I've had him come and guest speak. He's done private sessions for my clients and that. He's incredible. And I just bought into this concept that there's no negative without a positive. If I want to love my life, love is... You can't love anything that you don't know both sides of. Which means you've got to... You think about it, the people that you love the most, you can point out their negatives just as quick as you point out their positives. You know what you didn't like. You don't like what they do. You know the negative traits that you dislike about them. We can all, even my friend, I've got a friend called Chris Ramsey. He's quite a famous comedian. He's got one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And he started his own TV show last week, him and his wife. These guys sold out the fucking O2 Arena in 24 hours. 20,000 people to watch them recording a podcast. Unbelievable that, right? And they have a part of that called What's Your Beef? And basically, they just tell each other what they don't like about each other, right? But for me, this is what I'm saying here. We can't love anything that we don't know both sides of. So when I was like, actually, there's never a positive without a negative. It means that when shit things happen, I'm like, oh, that's just keeping me in check. It's just keeping it. So when someone criticizes me, I'm like, oh, they just keep my feet on the ground. Just keep my ego in check. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's a great perspective to have because it means that when challenge comes up, you just realize it's part of the journey and it's part of what you're doing.
I thought things had been going too well. You know what I mean? Like these things just keep your feet on the ground, keep you humble. When you know that it's almost like, it's not that I'm waiting for something bad to happen. It's like, oh, I thought I was due some shit.
Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth because I was interested to know somebody that's had your level of success and has been accredited to the highest level recently. Yeah. Just what sources are you still using? You've named Dr. John DeMartini. He's all about values from what I've read of his stuff before. Yeah. But what other sources do you turn to keep Paul Mort?
Yeah, I'm still a massive Robbins fanboy. I'm still a massive Tony Robbins fanboy. I don't care what anyone says about him. He's the fucking OG. He's the OG. I love Byron Katie. Byron Katie has a book called Loving What Is, which is where I first started waking up to this. There's no negative without a positive, and there's no so you got that the other way. Everyone knows there's no negative without a positive, but no one ever talks about the other thing. That's why when I do my live show, I show all the negative comments that I get. People wouldn't believe the shit that I get. At least once, actually, I'd say at least twice a week, someone tells me I should have killed myself. I'm okay with that, right? Because again, for every one of those negative comments, I'm getting 100 positive ones. So I'm okay with that. Now, so Byron Katie, I'm a big fan of. I'm in a program called Strategic Coach. I was in there for 4 years, left for a couple of years. Now I've rejoined that group. It's great. I get a lot of tools from there. I'm around ballers. And I'm a massive fan at the minute, actually, of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Massive fan. I've just managed to get on his week. He has a week-long retreat in London. Check this out. They sold 1,000 tickets at $2,000 a pop. In fact, $2,700 a pop with one email in about 8 hours.
What?
2.8 million or something.
He must have a good reputation then, and if you signed up as well.
And you know, here's the mad thing, Colin. This might resonate with you, actually. I knew about Joe Dispenza over 3 years ago, and I was like, fucking hippie shit. Not even kidding. This is hippie shit. This law of attraction bullshit. This quantum realm shit. Fuck off. But I've done that with meditation. For hippies, that. For tree huggers. I did that with journaling. It's for fucking teenage girls, that. I've done that with yoga. I even did it with jiu-jitsu. When I was boxing, I was like, fucking hell, rolling around with your pajamas on with another man? What's that? I've poked fun at things that I didn't understand. That's what we do. It's especially men. There's people do this with ice baths now. I'm like, well, we'll poke fun at shit that we don't understand all of the time. I'll probably do with other things now. But then I'm like, oh, well, now I'm ready for it. They say that when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. And now, dude, here's how mad it is. At the start of the quarter, I was like, I'm going to study some more of Dr. Joe's shit. So I signed up for a course that was 12 modules. And my goal was to do one a week for 12 weeks. That's how long my quarter is. Within 16 days, I finished the entire thing. That's unheard of for me. It's mad that I sell online courses and I work with people online. And we have a lot of in-person stuff as well. But actually, I am usually very poor at consuming online content. Poor. Yep. Just get distracted, mate. But this guy's shit, I'm like, oh my God. I've got my team on it. I've got my wife on it. And then as soon as that, I had notifications set for when they dropped the tickets, man. Yeah, I had notifications set. I was on it within about 2 minutes. I booked it. I stopped everything I was doing and I booked it. So that's kind of who I'm into now.
I'm still just learning. What are the main things you're working on then? Like, what are the main things that you're like, Paul, you need to sharpen up on this, or this will sharpen the saw to cut down the tree faster?
Right now, it's definitely my health.
Yep.
Definitely my health. And I haven't got it in front of me. Something like, so I've been an avid meditator since 2014. I've had my meditation coach called Arjuna. But then I've learned this Dispenza way, which is actually a more active style of meditation, super active. And what I mean by that is it's super thinking. It's not just centering yourself and not trying to empty your mind or having anchors. It's actually really active mentally. And I've actually, for 62 days in a row, I think I've hit a 20-minute meditation at least once a day. And I'm noticing, it's hard to describe how you notice your meditation shit, but I'd say more chilled. This is the stuff that I'm working on, really. It's my health and my energy, because that's the only thing. Energy and illness will be the only things that stop me achieving my goals this year.
Yeah, and if you can get those out of the way, you're going to win.
Yeah, I also started TRT 3 weeks ago as well. Yeah, which is quite I haven't talked about it much on social media because I don't think it's that important.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to notice the benefits of that already as well. So I wasn't low testosterone. So I've been using Thriver for a few years. I really love looking at the data and I find it interesting. Obviously, I was a PT back in the day. I find it interesting. And then a friend of mine, he's a physio actually. He started a company where they do some of this testosterone testing stuff and the TRT replacement stuff. And he just made a post. I was like, oh, that sounds quite a lot like me. So I sent him my Thriver results and my testosterone was normal. I don't have a problem getting a stiffy at all, right? And my energy is pretty good. But what I was struggling with was like recovery from training. I mean, I'm a 42-year-old man fighting 19-year-old fucking lads. You know what I mean? It's not normal, that. Right? But he said, my friend said to me something really interesting. He was like, well, Paul, you got to consider normal isn't that good. He said, do you want optimal? And I was like, yeah, I want optimal. So I started that 3 weeks ago, and I must say my recovery's better. I'm able to train more often. My sleep's better. My Whoop band's telling me my recovery's green like all of the time. This could be many things that are impacting it. It could be my meditation because you get deep rest. It could be my, what was I talking about before? It could be the no booze thing. But all in all, those are the things that I'm working on. Because like I say, those
combination.
And I'm always working on my business. We're looking to hire 2 people right now, which we're struggling with. I'm working on my speaking right now. I've got a rehearsal. Yeah, that's. But really, if I'll say one thing, it will be my overall health.
Yeah, the TRT piece is very interesting because we live in a very high estrogen, low test environment. Guys nowadays, our test levels are way down on what our
Harry Styles' new album cover yesterday. Here's the clip. This is the clip for social media. Have you seen Harry Styles' new album cover? Fuck me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's mad how we live in this like much lower testosterone environment, and what we consider normal, and what if you were normal or like adequate for an NHS level test,
yes,
you are very, very low for what a man even 20, 30, 40 years ago would have been. And I think that has a lot to play in the mental health crisis we've got as well, because low test guys are low energy. They don't do the things they need to do. They don't take the actions that you've recommended throughout this discussion.
Yeah, I love it. And they're fucking jerking off all the time as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That whole porn thing's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a porn addict, a recovered porn addict on the podcast, and he was talking about it. And one of the things I talked to him about was the whole hedonic adaptation thing, where obviously if you let's say you buy your first car and it's an Audi A3, in 3, 4, 5 months time, you want the Audi A5 or the Audi A6 because you've adapted. It's the same with porn. You watch, I don't know, some like literally one fit bird, but then in 6 months time, you're watching 3 girls. They've all got to have different hair colors or different ethnicities.
They're all making amazing noises. They're taking it up the arse.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah, it's sad. Well, it depends, Paul. Maybe when you were in Marbella.
Squirting all over the place. Why is my wife not squirting? Mate, she's fucking 56. That's why.
Yeah, it's mad. I do think guys have there's a lot for them to be concerned about when it comes to that kind of thing as well. But that's definitely a topic for another day.
Yeah, I once went 4 months without rubbing one out. My wife hated it in the end. She was like, "Can you not just have a wank?" Because I was a walking stiffy. I was a walking hard on. Yeah. So, and I think that the reason I did that was because there's a guy who I've had on my podcast, Jeff Thompson, unbelievably intelligent guy, and he said something like, "If you can't stop, you're addicted." So I was like, well, fuck you. So I stopped for 4 months. Yeah. It's a really interesting thing.
It's mad. I think NoFap's interesting. I don't think it's designed for people who aren't pathological fappers and like pathological wankers, but for control and to like resist urges and ride the kind of.
It's an interesting thing. I've actually thought about placing ads on Pornhub for what I do.
Well, those guys would benefit massively because they're probably without purpose. They're lacking. They're not going out to get real women.
Imagine seeing a video of me though when you've got your cock in your hands.
I don't know. It might float some people's boat, Paul. You never know.
You never know who's watching. I love it.
Exactly that. But I've absolutely loved this chat, Paul. If people want to continue the conversation with you, where should they head towards?
Oh, I would say my website, but who uses fucking websites anymore? Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, check out my YouTube channel, check out my Spotify. If you want raw, uncensored Paul Mort, go on Audible, use your free credit if you want. My book's called Paul Mort Will Save Your Life, and you'll fucking love it.
Yeah, super, Paul. I love that, and the guys will love listening to more of your content as well. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.